Hello YouTubers, my name is X Factor. How about a quick 45 kill streak bizarre rush using the tank as we talk about a couple things with Battlefield 4 beta approaching. From everything that I know and I've seen, the armor game is going to change drastically. In the past on this channel, I've done numerous tutorials on armor gameplay, versus infantry, working with infantry, positioning, where to damage the tanks, how to quickly disable tanks and LAVs, what to do with certain armor setups versus other armor setups, the pros, the cons, how to play lanes, how to peek, when to retreat, the strengths and the balances to help you dominate, whether you're playing against armor or you're trying to knock down their armor, either as an infantry player or another armor player. And a lot of that is being shaken up. This might possibly be one of my last rides as I know it in Battlefield 3, and positioning is everything. I constantly pay attention to the mini-map, and it really helps when a gunner, such as the guy that's in my tank right now, XB here, has proximity. That's absolutely huge in Battlefield 3. The main gunner can be rocking reactive, that's me, and the secondary gunner can be rocking proximity. You can't dodge it. You can't prone, you can't crawl, you can't do anything. You're on that mini-map every single second. That's huge. I'm also using the HMG. With Battlefield 4 quickly approaching, the 50 cal on top is quickly becoming a world destroyer and absolutely mows people down. But one thing that won't change in Battlefield 4 is you're only as strong as the infantry supporting you. You don't want to overextend. If you do, like I am right now, I'm going to take a pot shot and back up. Looking at that proximity again, somebody trying to share some sandwiches, don't overextend your infantry. So I've got very little infantry help to my left, so I'm going to keep an eye on these guys. Now, the positioning and my thought process is, where can I put my tank to help infantry cross? On Bizarre Rush, the most important lane is the lane to the left. Even if you're stuck on the BMCOM, you flood that area and you literally set up crossfire lanes. As those guys are trying to cross the street, they're going to get mowed down by the infantry players. And right now, I feel like I'm a lawnmower. I'm literally backing up into different zones that people play to get people to register on the proximity. The mini-map is your friend. And whenever there's a tank, don't clump around. If you just spawn in on a squad mate, try to get away from him. If you're within 5 or 6 feet, the splash damage is going to kill you. Now, the one thing tanks will not be able to do as I run up on literally 7 or 8 red dots is spam damage like I'm spamming now. The reload system has changed. They do have infinite ammo for the main gun. But the way it's going to work, and this is going to change potentially because, again, this is alpha and beta I'm talking about. You're going to have one major canister of shells, 4 or 5 shells. You're going to have a secondary reload of 4 or 5 shells. Now, once you go through that, there is a time, roughly, I think 5 to 8 shots between each shot comes back. So if you sit still, switch to your secondary, and let your main reload, you'll be okay. But it'll change when you can push, and if you're being caught in the open by another piece of armor on a reload. So let's say you went through your main 10, 12, 13 shells. You might be in a little bit of trouble if you get pushed by armor. So now when it comes to retreating, to waiting on a reload or repair, you might not be able to play it kind of cheap like I just played it there. I know there's nobody kind of pushing me, and I didn't back up as far as I could. So using the proximity again, gonna pull up. So I've done tutorials on how to quickly disable a tank with or without reactive. It's a game of angles in Battlefield 3, and it's a 90 straight degree in angle from the side of the tank or the back of the tank. You shoot a tank directly in the rear, not an angle in, it will do max damage. 2 shots to kill it without reactive. First shot disables it. Same thing with the sides. Max damage straight in from the side. Not a disable, but the max damage. Now here's another thing that you'll see me do. Sometimes I won't retreat straight back, and there's a reason. If I retreat straight back, the only variable that a person has to account for is the distance. They have to put a little more height on the shot. But if I snake around or make a slight curve, then they have to worry about not only the vertical distance, but the horizontal distance, and more importantly, lead. The RPG and the small have a little bit of travel time, so take that in account. The best thing you can do for the enemy team is back straight up or pull straight up. Use anything of cover that you have around you, whether it's a busted up car, concrete, or even infantry. I've been known to pull behind a clump of infantry that are pushing around a corner to use them as meat shields. Because at the end of the day, the tank is going to do some massive damage and just knock people off head glitch spots due to the high amount of splash damage that this has. So in Battlefield 4, they're changing the way that tanks and LEVs and armor are disabled. Right now, it's a damage-based point system. If you get a tank or an LEV down to X amount of damage, it's going to disable, so no matter what. So if you hit it in the front 3 or 4 or 5 times with a pretty crappy angle, or if you get a couple good shots in the side, it's going to disable, or one in the rear from straight on. Well, in Battlefield 4, they're tweaking that. They're going to reward you for being the sneaky support player or engineer, and obviously some weapons will pack more punch than others. So it's all going to be about protective positioning, knowing the map awareness when it comes to infantry, and more importantly, armor. And then don't forget, you have to juggle that reload. Now, here's what I'm doing wrong here. I gave that guy a straight shot into my side. I'm going to back up. Why? Because right now, I'm not disabled yet. I think one of the worst things that can happen in Battlefield 4 is get disabled. That might be a death sentence with all the anti-armor weapons in the game. Have you guys seen the boats and the TV missiles? Those things are absolutely OP. The TV missiles can literally fly up in the air on a nice angle, and you can come back down on a tank. Tanks will take 2 to 3 shots to drop the boats. That's going to be really tough with the Frostbite 3 and the way that the engines crest and roll. The boats can literally play hide and seek, and you can become a filthy boat driver and, more importantly, gunner. So try not to get disabled at any point in time, as I think I just HMG that guy off that head glitch spot. And RIP canister shell. I hope that comes back in its old form in Battlefield 3. So I can't really push up here. I can really take pot shots because I've got infantry to my left behind me, which means I can play a little bit more aggressive, but they haven't pushed out in the street. When they start pushing out in the street and pushing past this spot, that's when I can be super aggressive, knowing I only have probably about a 110-degree angle I have to worry about. Then think about the positions of cover that you're going to be approaching as an armor player. There's these head glitch spots and nice comfortable spots that they can protect themselves against infantry fire, but they're typically not so nice for tanks. And there's another pretty darn close to straight in shot max damage. So I could angle my tank in. I could take a little bit different of an angle there, and that's one of the other things. When you're pillaring or cornering like that, try to reduce the angle. So right there, I'm giving him a straight shot, and I'm just going to keep backing up and kind of play this safe here for a split second, but reduce that angle on the side. Battlefield 4 is going to be much the same way. It's going to be a game of angles. They're just changing how the disable system works. I imagine you'll be able to one-shot disable people maybe in the treads, maybe from different angles except for the straight-on ass shot if there is no reactive. And there's a head glitch spot I'm talking about. All these guys on the AM comm. And got to back up. 71 health, 53 health, reactive down on all sides. I'm in a lot of trouble. There's, again, another disable. Kind of stuck around a little bit longer than I wanted to, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. There's certain points in time where the armor suicide is worth it. If you're going to knock down, suppress, push back 5 to 10 people, 12 people in a couple seconds to allow that infantry to finally make that push, that's worth it. Typical armor spawn is 1.5 minutes on the standard servers. Of course, instant spawn makes that a little bit easier. And there I try to get back to 100% and start working my way back again. So without that infantry push, and you guys can see this, without that infantry support, and I'm about to go down with the ship here, without that infantry support, you are extremely vulnerable, and the tank becomes a paper tank, and there it gets blown up. So, and I'm going to try to do some little bit more work with the ACWR. I'll be doing tons of tank and armor tutorials when Battlefield 4 beta comes around and redo them for launch, because I guarantee you the game's going to change the disabling mechanisms and all the weapons, what damage they do from various angles, whether it's side angles, top angles, and that ass shot. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is probably the last armor tutorial I'm going to have for Battlefield 3, and it's been a long time since I've done one. So treat this as a refresher course. Always be mindful of where you're peeking, what your angle is of exposure, and take that into account next time you jump into a piece of armor, whether it's Battlefield 3 or the Battlefield 4 beta. Thanks for watching, YouTubers. Thanks for supporting me, and we'll see you guys soon.